There's quite the shift happening right now. Developers and businesses that are paying per token or per API usage are seeing their costs dramatically surge up. And that's an issue if you can't tie that back to business ROI or some form of business impact. Good news is there's also a proliferation of open source models that are hitting the market. And these, in theory, offer a lower barrier to entry with a consistent cost of just running these models on infrastructure. In this video, I'm going to go over when to use open source models, what they are, and how you can fine-tune them for your business purposes. And although they're not fully free, it's now the time to start understanding why this shift is happening. Let's just step back really quickly. What is an open model? Well, all the large firms from Anthropic, OpenAI, and Google are releasing open models for the public. You can normally download these on Hugging Face, and effectively what you're downloading is a set of weights, which is the architecture that have been open sourced by these companies. Many of these models are free to use and used commercially. And I just said we download weights, and if you watch my previous video, that's all AI models are. A massive file of billions of numbers that have been organized in such a way that they almost replicate the way your brain works in triggering different patterns and different functions based on the inputs that go into them. And at the end of it, it kind of feels like a coherent output. And that's why we feel like these models sound like us, because they've been trained in such a way with these weights that have been organized in such a pattern that it mimics human behavior. So once you download these models and they're on your machine, it's yours to use and manipulate in a way that makes sense for your business. One of the advantages of using an open model is you can fine tune it to make sense of your particular use case. So being able to fine tune your own model with an open model is something that businesses are starting to evaluate, giving them better predictability. And this fundamentally boils down to three reasons: cost, privacy, and control. Cost is an obvious one. Every time you make these calls in a large organization, that cost feels like it's just getting exponentially larger every time you get your monthly bill. If I were to run an open model on my own infrastructure, well, largely that's a fixed cost that I can predict. Privacy is a less of an obvious point, but when you think about it, using these existing paid models, your data is going back and forth, and your data could be exposed in ways that you would not want it to be. Again, hosting your own model within your own infrastructure does act as a deterrent for making your environment more secure. And control is the other one, and I think this one is super underrated. Models are changing so fast. You might be using a model within your organization and then suddenly it's depreciated. That changes everything that you've built around the ecosystem of having AI in your business. Companies now want certainty and control over their AI models. So when you have a local model that is open source, you can use that base model and you can build up information on top of it. So it is a second brain of your company. And that's super cool. You can train it to recognize your brand, your domain, your personal touch, which makes your business unique. You can even train it to understand your specific workflows. You're not having to go through the arduous and painful training processes that require rows of GPUs. You can do this relatively cheaply on commercially available laptops and hardware. Okay, cool. So you've decided to use an open model. How do you even train that? So what does fine-tuning a model actually look like? For me, there's 4 steps that we need to follow. Step number 1, like many challenges within machine learning and AI, it's all about the data set. And this is where you're going to spend most of your time. You need to give your model thousands of lines of potential user requests or system requests and the ideal responses that you expect. The more that you can give it, the better it will be, and the better we can fine-tune its brain to give the right output for your business context. Step number 2, this is deciding the technique that you want to retrain parts of your AI model. Remember, we don't want to change all the weights, that would be too expensive. Most people use LoRA, low rank adaptation. Instead of changing every single weight based off of the data set you're passing in, LoRa freezes the existing weights and adds an adapter on top with new weights based off the context it's been given on your data. I won't go into too much detail, there's many other videos online, but just think of LoRa as a way to kind of preserve the accuracy and the intelligence of a normal model by layering on your information on top and not affecting the other weights. Step number 3, run the training. You want to see your loss number decrease over time. And the loss number is effectively how often your AI gets it wrong based off the new input that you've given it. You want that number to go down and down as your model gets better at responding to your requests. Now, many people within ML will say you don't want your loss number to become too low. If it converges to 0, although that sounds really good, you do run the risk of overtraining your model. And that's the case of when it just answers perfectly on the trained data. But when you actually give it information outside of your training set, it's not as good as you think. So the loss number is an art in itself. You definitely want it to go down, but you don't want it to be perfect. And step number 4 is kind of what I've just covered, but it's the full-blown evaluation of your model, giving it to different users and seeing how they give certain inputs and the outputs that they're getting, is it in line with what you expected? If fine-tuning still sounds a bit technical for you, don't worry, there's plenty of UIs that aim to make this a lot more easy to enter into this market and use the benefits of an open source model within your business. There's companies like Unsloth AI, which give you a graphical user interface where you can dump in your data set, you can look at your loss model on a graph, and it will give you the output of your AI model that's easily consumable. But to be honest, using a paid model sometimes does make sense. If you're iterating really fast and your data is changing and it's not sensitive, then you should be taking advantage of these really powerful models that are being produced by the likes of Anthropic, Google, and OpenAI. These models are still way ahead of those that you can get on the open source and free market. And of course, the other benefit is you don't have to manage any of the infrastructure here. But on the other hand, open source models do make sense when you're seeing a dramatic increase in token usage and not much business ROI. If you need consistent behavior to sensitive data at a controlled cost, then you should be looking at open source models within your organization. So let's leave it there. Fine-tuning an open model used to require rows of GPUs and a specialist research team. We're now blessed to be in an era where that isn't needed and you can do it with one developer and a powerful MacBook. If this video made sense, please consider subscribing for more.